Thank you for inviting me for this program, and I really look forward to your very illustrious career over a period of time when you'll be running the administration of India first in districts, later on at state level, and I'm sure over a period of time at national level. And some of you will also represent India globally. So it's going to be a very exciting journey for you in the next few decades, wherein you'll be shaping the policy of India, but also implementing the policy. So you have a dual responsibility of giving inputs, for making policy, and also making sure that you implement it in the same way, the same spirit for which the policy has been made. So this normally, many times it doesn't happen. There's always a mismatch between what is intended and what is finally concluded. But you have a distinct advantage because as a bureaucrat, you know exactly what was intended because you are involved into that process. And you'll also know exactly why it should be implemented, the spirit behind it. So you'll have a very important role to play in the future growth of India. And I'm sure all of you are well qualified, but more importantly, motivated to take this task. I'm very happy that you are undergoing this very rigorous training at the academy. And I've been to the academy earlier, and I know how well the academy has been working towards fulfilling the objective for which the academy was created. So this sometimes doesn't happen, that an institution over a period of time probably doesn't deliver the way it was originally supposed to be. But this has really kept standards high, and therefore I want to also congratulate the academy. And I am happy that you have a course director, program director in Mr. Ramteke, whom I know is a very competent and very dedicated and committed person. So I'm very sure you'll also get the benefit of how you will be working in future. I was wondering what I should talk to you. I have a problem because I never prepare a speech. I'm a little crazy person. So last year, I must have addressed more than 700-800 webinars on more than 100 subjects, spanning all parts of the world, and you can say all the issues under the sun. So I was thinking, what is that I should really be talking to you about? And therefore, I thought, let me give you my own perspective. What you should be doing as a young and very well educated and now very well trained bureaucrat as you go along. Firstly, I must tell you a problem that all people in life face. When you are young and about to enter the real world, real life, you always carry with you certain notions, certain ideas, certain beliefs, thinking that the world will be like this. Why? Because you have certain ideas within yourself and you feel all other person must be like me. I am good, so the rest of the world must be better and they must be equally good to me because I am good to them. But normally it doesn't happen like that. Before I proceed, Mr. Ramteke, is it okay that I speak generally or you want me to speak on any particular topic or subject?
No, sir, it can be general.
Huh?
They would like to have a general topic, sir, whatever.
So it's okay, na? General I can
yes,
speak
sir,
about.
sure, sir.
And of course, I'll be happy to answer any specific question on a specific topic later on and any topic, there's no problem. But it's okay, no? I'm just
Yes, sir.
proceeding like that. So, as I was saying, when you enter the real life, well, actually, sometimes get a rude shock. Sir, I was thinking the world is like this, and actually, what I'm seeing on the ground is completely different. The behavior of people is something which is unimaginable. What is this? At that point of time, there's a dilemma. Whether I should continue with my own beliefs, the value system that I had thought is my software for my future life, or I should now change myself to adjust to the new world. It's a big dilemma. If you continue the way you are, you may face certain issues, resistance. If you continue to change, then you are not the same person that you knew yourself, because you are constantly changing. You are one person here in the morning, afternoon you are a different person, in the evening you are a third person. So after some time, when you look at the mirror, you may think I am the same person because my photograph has not changed. But when you start looking inwards, you'll probably have a big heartburn. Oh, I had this way of looking at life, and now I'm living completely differently. So I think on the first count, I normally don't give advice to anybody because I feel advice is a wrong thing to do. Everybody has to learn his own way. But I'll share my experience with you. It's for you to decide whether what to take, what not to take, but my experience I'll just tell you. I think one should never change the basic attributes of your oneself, irrespective of the challenges you face. I'll tell you a personal experience. As my young friend Anmol Sagar was introducing me, I couldn't hear him exactly because I just had to take a call, so I went out. But probably, I don't know whether he mentioned it, but I am about attending a chartered accountant. And I was doing quite well. I had a huge practice in a very young age. But I had always something which was picking my mind that I must do something for the society. And to do that, I got involved with large number of NGOs. At one point, I was involved with about 150 NGOs, very diverse fields. Then I got into cooperatives. That's the one way of changing economically as well as sociologically at the same time. I was the youngest ever chairman of the largest cooperative bank at 31, when I was 31. There came a difficult decision for me to make when I was offered to contest Lok Sabha election. My family was opposed. He said, why you want to get into politics? We are doing well. We have a settled family, settled life. My sister, my wife, my mother, my father had passed away by then. Everybody, most of my friends, barring few, who said, don't get into it. But I said, if everybody thinks like this, who is going to change? We can only criticize that this is not happening, but somebody has to stick the neck out and do it. So I joined it. Because I came from a different background, I was not even a politician. Actually, it's a very interesting thing that the day I joined politics, I became Lok Sabha MP. The day I became Lok Sabha MP, I was a cabinet minister. Not Minister of State or anybody. I never was MLA, not corporator. I became directly a cabinet minister, the only of its kind in the country. Lok Sabha MP, direct cabinet minister. And then subsequently I had, over a period of time, 6 cabinet positions under Vajpayee ji, and 4 under Modi ji. Now this is my 6th term in the parliament. But why I'm saying this is a very interesting thing. That is what for you to just ponder over. I'm not giving any advice. So because I came from a different background, there's a lot of media wanted to find out what makes you join politics. So there's a lot of media interviews, etc. One interview, they asked me, why you want to join? I said, I want to change the world. That's what I'm sure many of you will have that in your mind, why you decided to join the civil services. After some time, same person, I had forgotten about this, interviewed me again and said, you had said that you are going to change the world. Have you succeeded? I said, not at all. Forget the world. I could not change virtually anything. But then what did you succeed in doing? I said, I succeeded in doing only one thing. I didn't change the world, but I didn't change myself with the world. I had to pay a huge price for it. Not going to get into that. But that was the decision I had to make. That I will not change with the world. Whether I succeed in changing the world or not is a different matter. Now, this is one thing I think I'm sharing an experience, but we'll have this dilemma of coming into a system which is already prepared. Now, how do you perform? I come to that point, perform professionally is a different issue. As a person, as an individual, whether you like to continue with your own values, your own ethical system that you want to practice in life, or you want to change to be so-called successful. Now, let me also tell you a little later, if I remember it again, because I am speaking extempore. What is success? That I'll come to it later, maybe. But first point I wanted to tell you was, in my opinion, nobody should change his own beliefs, his own system that he feels he should practice in life. And if you continue to do that, I think over a period of time you'll see that because of this conviction, you have been able to do a lot more because you didn't change yourself. And because you didn't change yourself, you are what you are. Otherwise, you become like everybody else. Where is the person that was supposed to bring the change? The person is lost. He's become part of a system. So first and foremost important thing is that continue with this. That's what I did, is for you to pick and choose. Now that gives, and I talked about dilemma. One is this dilemma. But there is something even bigger dilemma. When you are in the government, which you are already, but now will be a functionary, active functionary of the government very soon, because you'll be holding certain positions. The government has been functioning even before you joined the government. And we always talked about two different arms, wheels of the government: political leadership, administrative leadership. And one of the greatest advantage we always talk about is that administrative leadership continues like a steel frame, as the Britishers would call it, irrespective of political changes. So the government has been there before you and is going to be there even after you. And why it has survived for so long and why it's going to be continuing to be like this till eternity maybe. Why? Because of systems. It works because of system. When you go and take charge from somebody, that your person from whom you are taking charge will hand over to you a memo. This is what is to be done. This is to be done. This is how it is to be done. There will be somebody who has been long enough into your department, which will be running, will tell you, sir, this is possible, this is not possible because this is a circular, this is a memo, these are rules of business, which is absolutely necessary. Because without system, how can you work? If every person brings in new system, it's a problem. So you have to follow a system. One was ethical issues, what I talked about. Now, secondly, I'm talking about a system of governance, government, administration, departments. Systems are there. And without system, forget the government. Without system, even private organization cannot run. Even your family cannot run. Every member of the family decides, I am going to live my own way. There is no family. There are certain issues we all agree in a small family that we'll do like this. We'll meet for dinner like this. We'll do something or the other. So now, you have to follow system. Here comes our second dilemma. If you are following a system, you are continuing with the existing status quo. Whereas the world is changing. And the administration, the government, doesn't change with the changes outside. How can we meet the expectation of people? So change is a reality. And can you work with a system which is a continuation of the old ethos, old policies, old laid down procedures? How do you manage this? So one, as I said, no organization, no unit in the society can function without a system. So systems are must. But your contribution will be, while following a system, how can you bring about change in the system? How can you bring a new model of delivery? And while you follow that, convert that model into a system. So you're not abandoning a system as a whole, but you are only bringing a modification into that, which is incommensurate with the changes that are happening outside, in line with the expectations of people. And if you don't do that, and only religiously follow the system, you will probably be so-called successful, but you will not be able to deliver. I think it's a very important thing for you to ensure that understand the environment in which you're working. And you will be posted, your first posting will be at a grassroots level, a district or even sub-district. There, when you go around and you will see that some things have not changed at all. since independence. Whereas people wanted something else. How can I change it for betterment of the people? Because ultimately, what are you and me? I'm a politician, you are a bureaucrat. What are we up to? Ultimately, if we don't serve the people, what are we there for? I will continue to get a house, I'll continue to get a car, I'll continue to get perquisites of being in the office, and I can retire, I will get pension. But is it that what I was supposed to be doing? It's a compensation I get as a salary and a perquisites, but my duty is different. My duty is towards people to change for better. And if you want to do that, I think you'll have to seriously introspect and find out what is going wrong. Why the intended policy, which I had mentioned earlier, and its consequences when it is implemented, why there is a yawning gap. What is that reason? And therefore, you must try to change it. Now, I don't know, I think I'm supposed to speak till 11:30, right? Or no, 11:30 I'm supposed to, 12:05. Okay, so there is some time, some more time, right?
Yes, sir. You can take your time, sir.
Okay. So now, I think this being, in my opinion, the most important aspect of your performance of your duty would be, without changing your own basic beliefs. And when I'm saying belief, it is not religious belief. When I'm saying belief, is not your affinity towards your own caste system. I'm talking about your own personal value system. Without changing that, how can you work? One. Secondly, how can you make changes in the system by introducing an alternate system, not by abandoning a system? And to convince your superiors, those who are supposed to work on this and work on that. While we do this, change the system a little bit challenging. What you can do without any difficulty is to be very humane, very compassionate, very helpful to the people who expect from you the delivery of the services. In fact, the problem is the cutting edge of where people at a very remote areas in villages or even in hamlets, they meet the government is through bureaucracy. And you are not the only bureaucracy, there are so many layers under you. If you are a revenue officer, there may be somebody who is even a Gram Sevak. In different states, you will call by different names. But somebody ultimately who people come in contact with is a administration. And therefore, if you are not understanding the concerns of the people and you are rude to them, you are wanting to find out faults with them rather than helping them, you are not doing your duty. So you must all the time keep this in mind, that I have to deliver something which people can be helped. That is very, very important. That's the only criteria I must follow. That am I helping the person or not? Am I helping the genuine cause or not? That's what is very important. Now let me just turn to, because for the limited time, let me turn to some emerging issues in the governance. You must be knowing that earlier, we still, in a way, to some extent, we are following the basic administrative structure that was created before independence. In fact, various rulers of India, some of them were foreign rulers, not some, most of them. They created an administrative structure benefiting them with their own priorities. So first was to ensure that they can continue to rule India. Though they were foreigners, they used Indians, most of them. Then the other purpose was to collect taxes. That's why in many states, even the district administrative officer is called collector. Then they are also supposed to keep law and order. Now, we have to think about how do you deliver in the governance some of the very important challenges that humanity is going to face in future. One of them is environment. Should we lose the natural capital for gaining economic benefits? Now, first and foremost, if you don't bring economic development in a country like India where there is so much poverty, such large number of people are still below poverty or not, you cannot say they're maybe above poverty, but still not as well off as they deserve to be. And in such a situation, obviously the overriding priority has to be economic development. But can you bring economic development by ignoring the environmental issues, environmental concerns, and losing natural capital for gaining economic capital? Economic capital can be created. Once you lose environment capital, it cannot be recreated. And therefore, the challenge is the new demands from governance of the coming years would be how do you ensure that environmental concerns are enshrined, mainstreamed into all the decision-making processes? How do you put economic development, but also environmental concerns? And this is a global issue in form of climate change, and there are many, many more global challenges, and probably one of the biggest one is climate change and environment. In fact, one of the big decisions President Biden took in his first 100 days in office, or probably one of the first day in office, was signing reaffirmation of United States commitment to climate change and rejoining the Paris Accord, which was signed during President Obama's time, but President Trump had walked out of it. So he said, no, we want to do it. And even today, he has already presented a budget proposal of $6 trillion, which is twice India's economy today. That is the yearly budget he has proposed to the Congress. Congress is their parliament. And in that big component is climate change. So President of America is working on the priorities climate change. It's a global issue. All the presidents and prime ministers of the world will be meeting in UK in the next few weeks for COP26, which is a climate change intergovernmental meeting which happens. But can we address climate change only at global meetings? It has to happen on the ground. Every government department will have to contribute towards it. Every action of public policy will have to respond to it. And therefore, I think for you, big issues over the next few decades will be how do you ensure that we deal with climate change? As you know, you come from all parts of India in this batch. We had two major cyclones. One on the west coast first, followed by on the east coast only a few days ago. So in the quick succession, two big cyclones. On the West Coast, we never used to have that kind of cyclones coming from Arabian Sea. It's a new phenomenon. Consecutively for 4 years, we are getting it. The reason is climate change, warming of oceans, as was already predicted and forewarned for all the scientists of the world that climate change is going to lead to more and more natural disasters. So just imagine one natural disaster has caused thousands of crores of damage. Forget uprooting of lives of people significantly. Now, if you are going to, as an administrator, you'll be called upon to look at damage control, restoration, rescue and rehabilitation. Best way is to avoid that happening. And that can happen only when you address climate change issues, environmental issues. The damage caused is so huge, over a period of time it's going to be even bigger because we are not going to the root cause. Therefore, we'll have to do that as you go along. So this will have to be kept in mind. Administration cannot be just looking at tax collection, law and order, and many others, but also aligning yourself with new global challenges which are actually going to be affected at locally. You mentioned, Anmol, about I was trying to introduce, or I introduced, ease of doing business in district. Let me just briefly tell you about it. I think I have to end in about 12:05, so I have only 10 minutes. Then, of course, I'll answer some questions for 10-15 minutes. So the priority of the government, national government, should get more and more investment into India, domestic investment from our own people, but also foreign investment, because domestic investment itself will not be sufficient to bring about higher economic growth. When a decision is taken in Delhi about getting investment either in India or abroad, from abroad, where does it materialize? Somebody is going to put up a factory, manufacturing facility, or service industry. Where is it going to happen? It all happens in Delhi. It happens in some district. And to actually make that happen, and that's what I was talking earlier about, making policy and implementing it, the gap. The policy is to get investment. If implementation doesn't happen, how are we going to get investment? And that materialization of that idea happens in the district. So how do you now align and bring in line with national priorities with local action? If our district administration is not attuned to what is needed as a country as a whole, you never get it. That's what I was saying, that we'll bring, and I started a new paradigm. I took 6 districts in different parts of India: Western India, Eastern, Northern, South, and one hilly district in Himachal, Salon. And those districts were designed to undertake as a pilot project for district-led growth. If each district grows, India will grow, because ultimately all the districts put together is India's growth story. More importantly, when the growth takes place in district first and then get reflected at the national level, the benefit would happen to people to begin with, because that's where the growth has happened. I used to always give this example that from 1991, not only in India but globally, there was a thinking and the theory that growth happens anywhere in the country is good enough because it will trickle down locally. But it never happened. And in fact, it is strange that President Biden in his first address to the nation, he used the same word trickle down effect, which I was always saying when I was promoting the district-led growth theory. And now, when the growth happens in district, that means whether it's agriculture, whether it's services, or whether it's industry, if there's some investment or some economic activity happening, people there will benefit. So there's no need for a trickle-down effect. It's a bottoms up. It's booster pump rather than trickle down. So the new priority of administration has to be economic development at district level, at all levels, but not only in state capital or national capital in Delhi, but even at district level, not even at district, actually lower than that, but at least to begin with, district should be the growth center. So what does it mean? That our new officers like you or joining the service will have to be all the time, keep yourself abreast with global issues, national issues of this kind, and there are many others, and actually create district administration where you'll start your career to begin with, completely in line with that. And as I was saying, one can say climate change is a global issue. We don't have to worry. And what hit us in East Coast and West Coast was actually, the cause was climate change. So maybe a global issue, but it's hitting you and me directly. You can say FDI investment is a national issue, but where it hit us? The people in the village. Because there's no investment, they don't get jobs, they don't get employment, they don't get economic opportunities. So ultimately, you will be a very important link as officer because you'll be actually heading the district. There will be many people below you. They may not, all of them cannot be as enlightened as you are. So your job would be to actually percolate down these national and global issues which are affecting the local people. They may not understand in that particular way, but shape policies, change agriculture practices to conform to climate-proof agriculture, make district administration work for economic growth. And therefore, I'm very happy that Prime Minister Modi has talked about a new model of Karma Yogi for you. You have to, as a Karma Yogi, you have to do your best and forget the rest. Ma phaleshu kadachana, but you will get the fruits in terms of development of the people. The happiness on the face will be your fruit of happiness that you will enjoy. And therefore, being in that new mission mode as professor, of course, professor for some time, Mr. Ramteke is trying to work on is to actually implement this whole idea of how you'll become the Karma Yogi of the new world. How you'll work as a change agent. In my opinion, that's my opinion, without changing yourself. Change outside, but don't change your basic structure, basics yourself. Like the Karma Yogi always does. Karma Yogi does not change himself all the time because of the demands and wants of the society. But he wants to change the society without changing himself. I hope he'll do that. I have a very bad habit. It came just before time and I want to end it at the right time. I'm watching the timing all the time. So I will stop exactly at 12:05, which is as per the program I was looking at it. I'm supposed to speak and start your Q&A at 12:5, so I'll stop here. And,
thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
No, but I think I would be very happy, Mr. Ramteke, if you want, I can come anytime to ITES because it's very interesting for me to talk to such youngsters, such bright people. Because at least when I was not bright, I could meet the bright guys. That's at least the solace I can have. So I'm very happy to meet all of you. I'm sure you'll succeed and do well in your life. And I'm sure our paths will cross somewhere when I can meet all of you as practicing civil servants, and I will sure will continue to work together. So let me thank you very much. And I, of course, as the program is designed, I'll be happy to answer some questions. So I was just looking at it. 12:05 is question answer, so I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was such an enlightening session. So there are certain questions from the officer trainees. I would ask Ayushi to first ask the question.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, I'm Ayushi from Maharashtra Cadre. So first of all, thank you so much for taking out time to interact with us, sir. I have two short questions, sir. One is about, sir, you have so much experience representing our country on international forums, sir. So what is the experience like, sir, and what is the process of building consensus and negotiations like, sir? And the second question, sir, you had earlier reference to your definition of success, sir. So we'd like to hear about that also, sir. Brief comments about that. Thank you, sir.
So what is the second one you said?
Sir, you had earlier reference to your definition of success in life, sir.
Okay.
Brief comments about that, sir.
Okay, let me first ask about your international. I was very fortunate actually. I've been to more than 100 countries, and I have been part of several global organizations, more than 12 as of now, but many more over a period of time. And I dealt issues very diverse. So first, when I was going abroad as a student, I was involved with so many organizations as a student. And then, of course, I've been dealing with environment, as been as the environment minister, then lately, even as a trade minister, commerce minister. So we have to deal with very complex trade negotiations. So I dealt with all of that. You're very right. It's a very challenging thing because negotiation, as you said, and to arrive at consensus, very difficult. Because and at that level, when you are actually building consensus anywhere is a difficult thing in any situation, but particularly when you are dealing with intergovernmental consensus is still more difficult because every country is coming with their only strong views. So it must have come from different sections. They must have done some domestic consultation and they come to a view. And each one of them is a sovereign power. So you cannot brush it aside because every country comes with, I am my own country, so I have a right to offer my own ideas. So it's an art. I will tell you something. I will just to illustrate this point. You have to build coalitions. First time I went as a minister, of course, not first time, but that was a very important meeting, was COP4 in Buenos Aires in Argentina. In fact, both are Argentina. Examples I'm going to give you. Incidentally, I didn't realize I went talking. That was 1998 as the environment minister. It was a climate change conference. So I realized what happens in a meeting, finally, at the ministerial meeting, is not real because people are only reading statements. What happens before the meeting is more important. That's the point of consensus building. And that can happen only through coalitions. So that time there was a Deputy Prime Minister of UK, Mr. John Prescott, when Tony Blair was the Prime Minister, 98. I made friends with him and we became very close friends. In fact, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever friendship I made over a long period of time, it has lasted and survived. Despite changes there and in my life. So I could arrive at some benefit for India thanks to my friendship and relationship and a coalition that built. Secondly, so what is important if you are asking me, consensus building can happen only when you understand other person better. If you don't know other person, you want to just say my way or highway, it will never happen. But if you start giving up everything, then you are not serving your own country. So you should be knowing in your own mind the red line that I will not cross this because this is not my personal interest, my national interest. I will keep this. But I must also understand other person. Every person is saying every person cross red line, how is it going to happen? Nothing will happen. So ultimately, if you are striving for aiming at zero result is a good result, is a different thing. And in climate change, we cannot afford to do that. Because if no action means we are doomed. Because world is changing anyway. But the second example I'll give you is on trade negotiation. I saw in 2017 end, again in Buenos Aires actually, both are very incidentally, I'm talking to you, I suddenly realized. That is 19 years later. I was a commerce minister. I just taken a commerce ministry charge a few weeks ago, before that. I went there and saw complete collapse of negotiations. I announced there that we'll organize a mini minister because there are all more than 200 countries. And I organized in Delhi immediately within a few weeks a mini ministerial. I organized two in 18 and 19, which both I chaired. First was attended by 58 countries, which is the biggest ever mini minister. What is the purpose? To build consensus so that we can understand the concerns of everybody and we can try to prepare a future agenda for trade. So that is what we actually try to do through negotiation. So this is how it happens. Now, the second question is, what is success? From your perspective, I'll tell you. I addressed the tennis like you many times in the past. Once I met, and I will just tell you because success can be defined in many ways, but I'll just tell you from your own perspective. I met a trainee who had no longer a trainee, he had joined a service and he was holding some position. He came to meet me. He was very happy the way I had spoken at one of such sessions like yourself. So he was reminding me about you said like this. I had forgotten because I never prepare a speech. So I said, what is your plan? He said, I have made it very simple plan. I will catch hold of a politician who will help me to grow in my career. I will help him to serve his interests. So I said, what are you talking about? He said, yes, this is my success. Because I'll be successful, because I'll get the kind of postings I want. Is this what your definition of success should be? I hope not and wish not. You should be successful because of your own merit, because of your contribution, which can be seen on the ground in terms of changing the lives of people, in shaping good policy, in implementing it better, achieving results in whatever responsibility you get. For example, your immunization program. You will immunize more people than before. If you are in poverty reduction program, you will remove poverty of more number of people. That's what your success parameter. So I was saying, for you, I hope not, that you will not get swayed by the thinking of my young friend, who still, I'm sure, is still in the service. I know him. But I hope you will not look at success from that perspective. I will tell you from my own experience. As I said, I handled so many ministries. So many bureaucrats have worked under me. And I had excellent relationship with them, even today. I allowed them complete freedom of working the way they wanted to do. Only I said certain things you cannot do. For example, when I was the railway minister, I said, I will not deal with any commercial transaction. So first order I issued to the railway minister was, not a single rupee tender will come to me. Why should a minister deal with tenders? I said, I will not deal with postings, transfers, but I created a system for it. Completely transparent system. Anybody wants transfer, etc. I don't know, some of you are railway officers, they'll tell you. I also promotion. Another reason for wrong things in the administration. I said, I will not deal with any of this. It will be completely transparent process. And so I gave freedom to my officers completely. But I was also created a management information system wherein I was watching them. So the success for an officer would be, he knows that he has to do this and I'll judge him by that, not by doing wrong things. So I think you should be guided by, that's what I started my address today with by telling you that don't change yourself. I hope you continue to do that. You are young, Ayushi. So I think your Ayush will be long. So in the long Ayush, don't try to be what you are. Try to raise bar all the time. You know, there is a very interesting thing about Gandhiji, Mahatma Gandhi. He said, if salt doesn't continue to be a salty, then can you call it a salt? Because if salt says, salt is, people don't like me too much. People with blood pressure don't eat me at all. So let me become like sugar. So salt will become sugar, we will call him salt. It is no longer salt. So if Ayushi becomes somebody to be successful like the other person, can you call yourself Ayushi? Is that what was my thinking about success?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ayushi. Sir, we have another question from Riaz.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Riyaz Sayyed from Jharkhand cadre. Sir, you introduced a model of Parivartan Kendras in Rajapur Taluka of Ratnagiri district. Sir, can you tell us more about this?
About?
Parivartan Kendras you introduced in Ratnagiri district.
So Riyaz, I am very impressed. So you know about it. Riyaz, you are in Chhattisgarh cadre.
No, sir. I am from Jharkhand cadre, sir, and my hometown is Nasik, sir.
But where you are from?
I am from Nasik. Nasik.
You're from Nasik?
Maharashtra. Yes, sir.
So you must travel. Nasik is not very far from Konkan, and you see to yourself. Bring grapes, of course, when you come from Nasik. I will not say bring wine. That is another reason why Nasik is well known for. But actually bring grapes before they are processed into wine. Anyway, I was just joking.
Sure, sir.
No, I was just joking. So Riyaz, very interesting. When I became MP for the first time, I said one of the problems that we politicians are doing is tell people don't do anything, I will give it for you. But then I feel he's indebted to me. He depends on me. It's true. But by doing that, I am killing the initiative of the people. And the development will never happen in any society when people lose that initiative, the drive, the enterprise. So I said, let we bring about change in the people's own thinking and make people work, and we'll help them to work. So how will it happen? So we created a holistic development model, 6-dimensional model, which has environment, and therefore we started eco clubs. Economic development, so we already trained about more than 1 lakh people for self-employment through Jana Shikshan Samsthan. That is economic. Social, so that nobody should be deprived of coming in by his caste or by religion or his background, economic reason. Everybody should be able to come there. So that's the social development. Fourth, physical, not to beat anybody, but to have physical strength within yourself. So we started gymnasiums. I gave from an MP led 115 gymnasiums. And of course, now we have Konkan Krida Prabodhini, which is working there. And then spiritual, not religious, spiritual. Why? The women get beaten up by the husband because they think wife is worse than a bonded labor. So I said, if you don't bring the change in his thinking, more the money you give, he'll drink more and beat his wife more. So this Parivartan Kendra, all these 6-dimensional activities will offer to the people so that they will become holistically developed, including some which we are doing, like for example, Konkan Kala Academy, which allows people to do art and culture. Konkan Arogyavardhani, to take care of even the physical part. We run a nursing college also. So physical is not just confined to only one. We have Konkan Krida Prabodhini, which also looks into that. But I'm just saying 6-dimensional holistic development model. We started 115 Parivartan Kendra. Today we are about 450. One for at least every 10 villages. We work in 2,000 villages. Sindhudurg and Ratnagiri, which are my constituency. Why I work, you will ask me question, why not you started in Nasik? Good question. I couldn't start in Nasik because I was not a member of parliament from Nasik. So I could not spend my MP-led money there. I didn't have my own money. I had to spend my MP-led money, which can be spent only in my constituency. So Riaz, I'm very impressed firstly that you have really gone through various activities. So you'll be very successful. Rather, I'm feeling bad that Jharkhand will benefit. Not feeling bad, but I'm feeling jealous. If you are a district collector in Sindhudurg, Ratnagiri would have benefited more. But I'm sure
Thank you.
we'll visit it once and we'll work together. I will request Professor or my dear friend Milind Ramtekeji
Yes, sir.
to circulate my email ID also, my mobile number also. So
Sure,
if anybody wants to be in touch with me, I'm more than happy to work with you and
Yes.
we'll work together. I will benefit more from your knowledge and experience. I'm an old man, so I'm on the way out. You are the young people. Like when you do costing, there are 2 methods, first in, first out. So I came first, so I'll be first out. Whereas you are now entering, so you'll be giving more ideas than what I have. So we'll work together, Riyaz. But I'm very happy and very impressed with your ability to go and study and find out and research. So I'm very impressed. Let's be in touch and we'll work together. The whole idea of this Parivartan Kendra is that society can change only when people themselves change. And they themselves take responsibility for change. Not just government doing something and outsiders coming and doing them. Let them be on their own. Let the enterprise grow. So that is what we are also running, Enterprise Development Institute. Of course, all these programs are run by my wife. She was a journalist. She was still recently group editor of Zee News. After that, ITV News, and before that, Times of India, and many others. So she left all that and she's doing full time. And I'm taking credit and she does the work. So like all husbands, I'm trying to be following that pattern. Husbands don't do anything, but they take credit for it. So like, for example, if you invite guests at home, your wife has worked very hard preparing good meal. The husband will say, how is the food? Good? No? As if he has prepared it. So my wife has done this, but we'll be in touch, Riyaz, and I'm very happy that you have gone through it.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And Professor, if you don't mind, circulate my email ID as well as mobile. They
Yes,
can
sir. Sure, sir. I will circulate the number and email ID, sir. I will contact your PS and I will circulate. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Riaz. Sir, I think we have almost run out of time. Thank you, sir, for such an enlightening session. Sir talked about some important perspective required for the bureaucrats. Sir also mentioned about ethical dilemmas and dilemmas involving government systems and how to deal with them. And sir also touched upon certain emerging issues in the governance, such as how to balance economic development, but at the same time conserving the environment, and also how climate change should not be very top-down approach, but also a bottoms-up approach, and should be dealt at the district level also. Sir, the experience shared by you will definitely help all the officer trainees in the years to come in our district experience and district postings. I would like to thank you once again, sir, for taking the time out from your busy schedule for addressing us. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, I was just to understand. I think your total number of people in this batch are how many?
So there are 185. Out of this, 3 are from Royal Bhutan Civil Services and 182 are from Indian Administrative Service.
And how many IS and how many other services?
182 are IAS, sir, and 3 are from Royal Bhutan Civil Services. They do course along with us. So Bhutan sends their officers, sir, in the academy every year.
Is it possible you can just send me little bit background, not all
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
only
Will, sir.
profiles,
I
but
will
also-
send in all the things with numbers and who's who, and I will send to your PS. Sure.
So thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity. Let's be in touch, and I'll be happy to participate in such interactive sessions anytime in future. I hope what I said was something which, as I said, was something that you wanted me to speak. So I hope it's all right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your highly inspiring and motivational speech and address and interaction, sir. And that will go a long way, sir. And that's exactly what we tell them or teach them in the academies. Thank you very much, sir. And we'll be very much happy and privileged to invite you further, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And all the best, my young friends. Do well in life. Be successful. And anything I can do for you anytime, I will be more than happy to just offer you my ideas. As I said, I always feel that nobody should give any advice to anybody. And I don't give advice to anybody, but I'll be very happy to share with you anytime perspective if you really think. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.